there, fantasy owners. Welcome to LTC Fantasy. And not sure if you're chiming in, watching via YouTube or listening via podcast, but really do appreciate the watch or listen, no matter how you're streaming the episode. I do want to start out by mentioning we have partnered with 247clash.com. Check out the website. It's a fantasy-based player versus player with fantasy points type game that makes it basically possible for anyone to win. If you do check it out, you decide to sign up. Again, the website's www.247clash.com. And when you sign up, use referral code LTC. And do remember, it is for Canadian residents only at this time. Maybe that changes in the future, but for Canadian residents right now. So back to the episode. Today's our Week 13 midweek waiver wire episode. And basically, we're going to look at lower ownership goalies, defensemen, and forwards that are either on a hot streak or getting some opportunity due to injuries, etc., to hopefully strengthen your roster, not only for this week, but future weeks as well. Hopefully, you get a little bit of runway with these player ads here. So basically, we'll get right into it. Some goaltenders to look at. First one is from Arizona. Look at Karel Vejmelka, owned in 51% of Yahoo leagues. In the last 9 games, he's 5-3-1, so over 500 there. He's playing okay, and he does play a lot. That's the big thing, is a lot of quantity there. So he should be an okay third option, depending how your league is formatted there. Another one to look at, go over to Minnesota. Look at Philip Gustafsson, owned in 34% of Yahoo leagues. He's won 7 of his last 8 starts, and only 2 of those starts did he give up more than 2 goals against there. And he is getting a few more starts of late. So as a third option, if you start stealing some starts from Fleury, could work out for you if you spot start him there. Another one over in Carolina, look at Antti Ranta, owned in 42% of Yahoo leagues. He's won 7 straight starts, and in that he's pitched 2 shutouts in there, so he's really got the ball rolling with Carolina of late. He's, as I mentioned, he's playing well and on a very strong Carolina team, so could be a fairly good depth goalie for you, depending if you have an injury, etc. And the last one's in LA. Look at Phoenix Copley, owned in 36% of Yahoo leagues. He's won 8 of 9 starts since being called up there. He's kind of came out of nowhere, and he's getting you W's. The big thing is he's getting you wins. He has a decent save percentage. So with that, you should get some pretty nice value if you do pick him up there. Before we go into defensemen, do want to ask you to subscribe as we're trying to grow the channel here on YouTube. Or if you're listening via podcast, we're trying to get some more traction there. Remember to hit follow, hit subscribe, etc. And that's my little plug there. So now we'll get into some defensemen. Start off in Washington. Look at Erik Gustafsson, owned in 49% of Yahoo leagues, playing top pairing, top power play unit, and he has 13 points in a 7-game point streak, with 20 shots on goal in those 7 games and 8 blocks. He's basically as hot as he gets. Check if he is available, pick him up. You will be happy, especially the way he's playing right now. Another one over in Philadelphia. Look at Tony DeAngelo, owned in 65% of Yahoo leagues, playing second pairing, top power play unit, and he has 8 points the last 5 games. And in those 5 games, he's +7, 14 shots on goal, and 7 hits. He's been hot of late and definitely be a nice depth piece pretty much in most formats there. Over in Arizona, look at Shane Gostisbehere, owned in 64% of Yahoo leagues, playing top pairing, top power play unit. And he has 16 points in his last 18 games, so that's a long stretch for your damn near a point per game defenseman there. And in those 18 games, he's fired 39 shots on goal and also had 22 blocks. He's obviously been good for quite a while now. If he is available, definitely pick him up. He won't really hurt you pretty much in most formats. Maybe the odd caddy's a little low, but overall you'll be pretty happy there. Over in Carolina, look at Brady Shea, owned in 31% of Yahoo leagues, playing on the second pairing there, and he has 8 points his last 12 games. And in those 12 games, 34 shots on goal. That's a lot of shots there. He can be a little bit streaky, but he does get you some shots on goal there for sure. And in deeper leagues, definitely be a decent depth piece. Over in Columbus, look at Marcus Bjork. Owned in 1% of Yahoo leagues, playing top pairing, second power play unit there. And he has 4 points his last 6 games with 10 shots on goal, 11 hits, and 12 blocks. He's pretty good in most cats there. He is playing in Columbus, so that makes you a little bit hesitant. But overall, his cats are okay. So definitely in a deeper cats league, should provide some value for you. Over for the Islanders, look at Alexander Romanov. Owned in 23% of Yahoo leagues, playing on the top pairing there, and he has 6 points his last 11 games. And in those 11 games, he has 23 hits and 17 blocks. Obviously, his value is in the hits and blocks department, but he does get you some offense in spurts. And with that, in a Cats league, even a deeper Cats league, you know you're going to get the hits and blocks, and if that offense comes, it's a nice little bonus for you and should provide some depth for you. The next one, I hope I don't butcher the last name. It's Arbor Jackcash is what I looked online to see it's pronounced as. From Montreal there, 25% owned anyways. Second pairing, second power play unit there. And he has 4 points in his last 6 games with 14 shots on goal and 16 hits. He does hit a lot. He's getting a fair amount of shots. His offense can be a little streaky, so in certain formats, could provide some depth for you. Going over to Seattle, look at Adam Larson, owned in 43% of Yahoo leagues, playing on the top pairing. And he has points in 6 straight games. I'm not sure if he's ever had a 6-game point streak in his NHL career, but also in those 6 games, he's been a +6, 14 shots on goal, 19 hits, and 12 blocks. He's not known for his offense, but of late, he's basically been doing it all. So definitely in a Cats league where you can rely on other things other than just offense, definitely provide some value for you. Right now, the way the offense is going, the only way I'd touch him is in a real deep scoring league there. Going over to Toronto, look at Mark Giordano, owned in 20% of Yahoo leagues, playing top pairing, second power play unit there, and he has 5 points the last 8 games. And in those 8 games, he's been +3 and also has 13 blocks. The vet is obviously not what he used to be, but he is chipping in a bit of late. Obviously gets you a decent amount of blocks as well. So in a deeper league, and I express deeper league, could be a decent pickup for you. Going over to Philly, look at Cam York. Owned in 1% of Yahoo leagues, playing top pairing and second power play unit there. And he's put up 6 points his last 7 games with 12 blocks there. He's having a nice little run right now. So in deeper leagues, because before this little run, it was a little bit hit and miss, but the kid does have some offensive upside there. In deeper leagues, he could be an okay depth piece for you. Going over to Minnesota, look at Jared Spurgeon. Owned in 62% of Yahoo leagues, playing top pairing, second power play unit there. And he has 7 points the last 8 games. And in those 8 games, he's been +8, 10 hits, 25 blocks. An absolute S-load of blocks in there. He's obviously good in a few categories there. Still gets a little bit of power play time. And the offense is there, etc. So definitely in a Cats league or even a scoring league, he's fairly consistent there. A deeper scoring league should get some value out of him. Over in St. Louis, look at Colton Parayko, owned in 14% of Yahoo leagues, playing top pairing, second power play unit there. He's put up 3 points the last 6 games, so half point per game, but he also has 19 shots on goal, in those 6 games, along with 10 hits and 11 blocks. With injuries to Krug, etc., he is getting some power play time there. With that should come some added opportunity. You know you're going to get the hits and the blocks with him. His offense should get a little bit of an uptick. So especially in deeper leagues, you might be able to squeeze some value out of him and be a decent depth piece for you. Moving along to forwards, start off in LA. Look at Philippe Dagnon. Listed as a center, owned in 29% of Yahoo leagues. Plays on the second line in LA and second power play unit. And he has 9 points in a 7-game point streak, so really hot right now. 21 shots on goal and 9 blocks. So obviously he's been really hot, and with a lot of he also gets you a lot of face-off wins, so if that's counted in your league, that's another bonus for you. But he should provide you decent depth. He's been fairly good all year and really hot as of late. Another one to look at is Jordan Staal over in Carolina there. Listed as a center, owned in 24% of Yahoo leagues, playing on the third line there, and he has 8 points his last 7 games there, plus 6 and 13 hits in there. He's been really good of late, and in deeper leagues, he should be an okay depth piece moving forward. Going back to LA, look at Alex Iafallo. Listed as a left winger, owned in 6% of Yahoo leagues, playing on the second line, second power play unit. And he's put up 7 points his last 6 games, so nice little run. 3 power play points in those 6 games, 13 shots on goal, and 4 blocks. He's up in the top 6 and playing well. He was injured there. He was down in the bottom 6, but now he's back up in the top 6. So especially in a deeper league, he should be a pretty good depth piece. Going over to Vegas, look at Michael Amadio. Listed as center, right winger, owned in 8% of Yahoo leagues. Up in the... Seen him anywhere from the fourth line to the top line, etc. But last time I checked, was back down to the fourth line. Top power play unit, though. And he has 9 points in the midst of a 7-game point streak with 21 shots on goal. He's been hot of late, as you can tell, and should be a solid depth piece, especially in deeper leagues. Going back to LA, look at Victor Arvidsson. Listed as left winger, right winger, owned in 24% of Yahoo leagues. Plays on the second line, second power play unit, and he has 8 points his last 6 games. And in those 6 games, he's been +4, 17 shots and goals, so contributes in other cats. He's been fairly consistent and should have a little more love than just 24% owned. And with that, if you should be able to get some decent depth value out of him. Over for the Islanders, look at Anders Lee, listed as a left winger, owned in 64% of Yahoo leagues, playing on the second line, top power play unit there, and he has 7 points the last 8 games. And in those 8 games, he's +5, 26 shots on goal, so definitely nice amount of shots, and 10 blocks in there. That's a lot of blocks for a forward. So he is good in a few cats, and should be a decent ad for you moving forward. Going over to Toronto, look at Kelly Yarncroc. Listed as center, left wing, and right wing. Like that you can slot him in any forward slot there. Only owned in 11% of Yahoo leagues. Playing second line, second power play unit. He's been hot. 7 points in a 5-game point streak. +3 in those 5 games and 6 hits. He's playing well with Tavares. And if he stays there, especially in deeper leagues, you should be pretty happy with what he brings. Next one over in Detroit, look at David Perron. Listed as a right winger, owned in 63% of Yahoo leagues. Plays on the top line in Detroit, top power play unit there. And he has 6 points his last 6 games with 21 shots on goal. Basically, he's been fairly consistent and should be a pretty good depth piece for you pretty much in most formats there. Next one is Nick Schmaltz over in Arizona, listed as center, right winger. Owned in 25% of Yahoo leagues, plays on the top line, top power play unit there, and he has 12 points his last 10 games played, +4, 18 shots on goal and 6 blocks. He plays well with Keller. They're pretty good. As I'm recording this, Arizona's playing. I see you already got at least 1 point tonight, and he should be a fairly decent depth ad, especially in scoring leagues. Going over to Vancouver, look at Ilya Mikheyev, listed as left winger, right winger, owned in 6% of Yahoo leagues, plays top line, second power play unit there. He's put up 9 points his last 11 games, so nice little stretch of damn near a point per game, and 23 shots on goal in there. He can be a bit streaky, mind you, but in deeper leagues, especially right now, the way he's playing, should provide some pretty good depth for you. Going over to, back to Carolina, look at Jesper Fast, listed as a right winger, owned in 3% of Yahoo leagues, plays on the third line there, and he's put up 6 points his last 7 games, so almost a point per game, +7 in those 7 games, and 5 blocks. So he's on a bit of a roll, and in a deeper Cats league, and I express deeper because he's not always known to put up those kind of numbers, but he will contribute in other Cats. He should provide some decent depth. Going back to Detroit, look at Michael Rasmussen, listed as center left winger, owned in 8% of Yahoo leagues, playing on the top line, top power play unit there. He's put up 7 points his last 5 games, and in those 5 games, 15 shots on goal, 8 hits, and 5 blocks. He's on the top line and on a roll there. He should be an okay ad, especially in deeper leagues for you. Going back to Vancouver, look at Andrei Kuzmenko, listed as left winger, right winger, owned in 42% of Yahoo leagues, playing on the third line, second power play unit, and he's put up 11 points his last 11 games, and in those 11 games, he's also a +8, which is a nice little bonus if that's counted. He has nice offense, and in a scoring league especially, should provide some pretty good depth for you, gets you points in bunches there. Over in Buffalo, look at Kyle Okposo, listed as a right winger, only owned in 1% of Yahoo leagues. Playing on the fourth line there, but he has 6 points his last 8 games. And in those 8 games, he's +5, 19 shots on goal, 13 hits, and 4 blocks. His offense is streaky, but as you can tell, he contributes in other Cats. So in a real deep Cats league, you might be able to get some depth for you. Other than that, I'm leaving him alone just because of the fourth line minutes could be quite the variance on what he produces game to game there. Going over to Dallas, look at Wyatt Johnston, listed as a center, owned in 2% of Yahoo leagues, centering that third line and second power play unit, and he's put up 5 points his last 6 games there, 2 of those being on the power play, and in those 6 games he has 14 shots on goal and 3 blocks. Kid's been good of late, there's no denying it, definitely knows how to snipe a bit. I think 4 of those 5 points are goals, and in deeper leagues he could be a real nice value depth ad for you. Going over to Carolina, look at Stefan Noesen, listed as left winger, right winger, owned in 10% of Yahoo leagues, playing fourth line, but up on the top power play unit there. And he has 8 points his last 9 games, and in those 9 games, he's +6. 3 of those points are on the power play. And in those 9 games, 18 shots on goal and 18 hits. He's really good for a fourth liner, probably the highest scoring fourth liner in the league, or damn near anyways there. So in deeper formats, he could be a pretty decent depth piece for you. Going over to Philly, look at Owen Tippett, listed as left winger, right winger, owned in 5% of Yahoo leagues. Plays on the top line, second power play unit there, and he has 9 points his last 10 games with 28 shots on goal and 16 hits. So 8 and 9 points, 4 of those are multi-point games. He has 4 2-point games and 1 single-point game, so it's kind of a boomer bust ad. So in deeper formats, when you can afford to have a boomer bust kind of player on your roster, that's where he'll provide the most value for you. Going over to Vegas, look at Riley Smith, listed as left winger, right winger, owned in 62% of Yahoo leagues, playing second line up on the top power play unit there, and he has 10 points his last 10 games with 33 shots on goal. He's been fairly good most of the year. He's been consistent, not quite point per game like he is over the last 10, but pretty close, and should be a decent depth piece for you if you can pick him up there. Going over to Florida, look at Carter Verhaeghe, listed as a left winger, owned in 64% of Yahoo leagues, plays top line, second power play unit there, and he has 7 points the last 8 games, and in those 8 games he's +5, has 16 shots on goal and 5 blocks. So he's fairly steady. He's been good with or without Barkov in the lineup there, and in scoring leagues he should be a pretty okay depth piece. Going back to LA, look at Gabriel Velarde, listed as left winger, right winger, owned in 27% of Yahoo leagues, plays third line, but up on the top power play unit there, and he has 4 points the last 5 games, and in those 5 games, he has 9 shots on goal, 6 hits, and 5 blocks. He's on a bit of a roll of late. He kind of goes a bit hot and cold on you, but in deeper leagues, with being on the top power play, kind of contributes in other Cats as well. Could be a fairly decent value add for you. Going over to Calgary, look at Dylan Dubé, listed as left winger, right winger, owned in 22% of Yahoo leagues, playing on the top line, second power play unit there. And he has 9 points the last 9 games. And in those 9 games, he's +5, 20 shots on goal, and 10 hits. He has cooled off a little bit of late. I think it's 1 point in the last 4, then he had 8 points over the previous 5, something along those lines anyways. But in deeper formats, he's been up on the top line for a while. Could be a decent depth piece moving forward. Going over to Carolina, look at Teuvo Teravainen. Left winger, right winger, owned in 59% of Yahoo leagues. Plays second line, second power play unit there. And he has 5 points the last 8 games. 4 of those 5 points being on the power play, though, and 18 shots on goal. He's been picking it up a bit, and he gets nice power play production there. So if that's factored in your league, a little bit of a bonus for you. So in certain formats, he could definitely provide some depth for you. Over in Boston, look at David Krejci, listed as a center, owned in 25% of Yahoo leagues. Center's at second line in Boston, second power play unit, and he has 8 points his last 10 games. And in those 10 games, he's thrown 10 hits and also had 7 blocks. He's been consistent and should be a pretty solid depth piece, especially in a deeper Cats league for you. And the last one's in Philly. Look at Scotty Lawton, listed as center left winger, owned in 8% of Yahoo leagues, plays on the third line, second power play unit there, and he has 6 points in a 4-game point streak right now. And in those 4 games, he's +7, 9 shots on goal, 4 hits, and 3 blocks. He's on a roll, and especially in a deeper Cats league, because he helps you out basically in most Cats, or even a real deep scoring league, he should be a fairly decent depth piece for you. That's it for today's episode. We'll be out in a bit with our weekend ads episode. If you're watching via YouTube, remember to hit like, hit subscribe, remember that notification bell. If you're listening via podcast, remember to hit that heart, hit follow, hit subscribe, depending what platform you're watching it on. Don't forget to check out www.247clash.com. And if you sign up, use referral code LTC. Hope you guys make some winnings off of that there. And we'll talk to you in a bit there, fantasy owners.